Let us discuss 13th June 2015 newspaper. So the land boundary agreement was signed between India and Bangladesh in 1974 and a protocol has come into force in 1991. Indian Parliament has ratified this in 2015. In line with this, the land pact will be rolled out in the next 11 months. In these 11 months, so that is from July 31st, 2015 onwards, all the transfer of the property and movement of the people from one side of the border to the other side, everything will be done. The July 31st, 2015 is declared as an appointed day. It means that on that day, both sides of the land stand transferred from, that is, Indian enclaves on Bangladeshi side will be transferred to the Bangladesh. Bangladesh enclaves on the Indian side will be transferred to India. So once the land is transferred, the transfer of the people and their properties exist. Now, the people and their movable property can be easily transferred, but however the non-movable property, how to determine the value of this property, how to provide for them for this value, these are the contentious issues. And a joint working group is constituted and it is working on the details. And another thing is the right to retain the nationality. If a person of Indian or else if a person he wants to retain his Indian citizenship, yes, he can retain that. And coming on to the other part of the India, so that is what is being talked about. The next thing is with regard to the smart cities, how the smart cities have to be in the country. So this article, what it says is this: the major crisis of third world urbanism are these things. He has used the word third world urbanism. So what is the urban crisis in India? One thing is the planning is highly disjointed and irregular. And second thing is the urbanization is more and more moving towards materialism. So the social interaction and cultural affinities are missing with regard to the urbanization. And the third thing is the crime rate is increasing and it is majorly affiliated towards the urban growing and urban indifferences. Especially the slum population is increasing in the country and urban infrastructure is tweaking. So it means what all the reasons for these problems are. So for this, what he says is the smart cities have to be built around a humane approach. What meant by this human approach? A human and social interaction has to be maximized. So the privatization of the entire infrastructure, entire city, that does not provide for a better human interaction. Especially the growing gated communities and this culture, it is going to undermine the human interaction and keep the class differences alive. So in this context, the second thing is the infrastructure planning is confined only onto the surface of the earth. So we can make the vertical growth and growth underneath the earth too. So building the subways and also building the skywalks etc. are being suggested for. Finally, in India, if you want to bring in a humane approach, the centricity of the common people have to be taken into consideration. So the better utilization of the existing spaces and the infrastructure shall be made accessible to the people. So in this context, if the government has to take hard regulatory steps towards providing for better spaces for the urban people to live, better lung spaces for breathing fresh air, the government shall take the tough steps. But I am not very much convinced with this article because one way he says that it has to be, human interaction has to be maximized and Indian culture affinity has to exist. That's true, but on the other way he compares it with the Paris, etc., various European cities. If we carefully observe that the human interaction is maximum in the Indian cities, so there is a livable human interaction exists. So author missed that particular thing. And most of the Indian cities, probably by the European standards, they may not have the amenities. But however, the civilizational strength of the cities, most of the cities have one or the other history. I think that particular thing has been missed by the author. And he is an architect. He saw that particular urban landscape only from the architectural perspective rather than from a holistic urban perspective. And next this is a very good article. Recently, the Parliament wanted to amend this Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act. So according to this, any person less than 14 years getting employed in any industry, it is a punishable offence. So the child labor is prohibited in all its forms less than 14 years, except the children are allowed to work in the family related business during their holidays. And 14 to 18, these people are not allowed to work in the hazardous industries. So in this case, what are the positives of this are, it brought the uniform definition of the child in the country up to the 18 years of age. On the other side, now change your thinking pattern a bit. Why the child labor is increasing? Where the child labor is worse in the country? Now the first thing is, the child labor is worse, especially in the informal sector. There is no proper protective mechanisms exist in the informal sector. Now these exemptions given to the law, any good law shall have the minimal exemptions. If more the exemptions, then implementation of the law becomes difficult. So these exemptions makes the law difficult in this case. So what the author suggests is, the Apprenticeship Act can be amended, learn and earn simultaneously. So earn while you learn, this is what is the Norway subject. The similar thing can be applied in India, where certain formal protected jobs can be identified and the children can be given training or can be given certain experience to participate in the work over there. In that context, the child will be better placed and he will understand the work environment, work ethic, and also he will contribute to GDP, and also he can be better protected for. Instead of providing for exemptions, the state has to take an enabling proactive step with regard to the children. And added to that, the children are not consulted as per the UN Convention on the child rights. A child has to be consulted for every decision onto him. Even Child Convention also made such a thing over here. So the International Movement of Working Child, they have demanded for right for consultation on various decisions making onto them. So these are the things we need to understand. And next is the attack in Myanmar, this hot pursuit in Myanmar. Now it is a secret operation. Any covert operation, it has to be kept secret. So then only its objectives will be fulfilled. And it also provides for operational space to conduct the similar operations in the future. And second is, it also has to balance the diplomacy. And the third thing is, it has to provide for the long-term strategic strength to the army, and our ultimate objective has to eliminate the militancy. In this context, clear details about the operations, giving warning signs to the other countries, etc., they did not go well with these respective countries. So the Myanmar's cooperation and explicit publicity given by the Indian government also did not go well with Myanmar. So in this context, what it is suggested is, anything of this sort, a covert operation which are going in India from the 1991 onwards, so they have to be kept secret, and something which is less spoken or not spoken is good in the covert operations. It will provide for a better diplomatic engagement with the countries and better cooperation between the borders. On the other side, India will be pictured as a hegemonic country in the South Asia, which is not good for the strategic interests of India in the long run. And next is Ukraine. So on the eastern part of the Ukraine, there is a fight going on, and already the Russia has taken up the certain part of the Ukraine. So the Crimea crisis, we all know about that. So in this context, the West has given sanctions to the Russia, so condemning the Russia occupation of the Crimea. So it shows that the sanctions did not provide for a threatening or a threat to the Russia's economy. And the second thing what the article says is this. So the major problem is the West entering into the underbelly of the Russia. So thus Russia wants to protect its sphere of influence. When in the Ukraine, a pro-Russian government is displaced, Viktor Yanukovych is replaced. That's what is the starting point for all these issues. And second, the Russia is a very big economy by itself, and it is also a superpower. With regard to various ongoing crises in Syria, or with regard to the Iran situation, or with regard to the Ukraine per se, so the Russia has a role to play. Russia still has its sphere of influence or still has its influence in Central Asian countries and also the Eastern European countries. In this context, the diplomatic engagement, especially a constructive engagement, so that is what is necessary for this particular stalemate to end and to constructively find a solution towards the Ukrainian crisis. And this one is Dalits issue. Now I want to Dalits and assertion of the power in Tamil Nadu. Now if you take the Dravida movement, it majorly took the anti-Brahminical stand. Because of this Dravida movement, who has got benefited are the other backward classes. Now in this context, the Dalits and their representation in the political activity in Tamil Nadu is minimal. So the change in the stand in Tamil Nadu, where Dalits want to assert and share the power, or wherever the government, wherever they get a chance to be part of the government, they will support to that particular political party. That shows the new assertion of the power by the Dalits. Now let's link it to the Green Revolution. After the Green Revolution, many of the backward classes, so in UP, Bihar and also Tamil Nadu, they gained the economic strength. Slowly gain of this economic strength got into the political strength. And so that has led to the consolidation of the political strength of the OBCs. For example, Jats, Yadavas in North India. So OBCs are in South India in Tamil Nadu. So Reddy and other communities in Andhra Pradesh. So these are the farming communities that gained after the Green Revolution. Now, slowly after the Kanshiram has come into the picture, the Dalit and OBC conflict has increased in the politics of the UP and Bihar. So some Senas are also created, Ranveer Sena, etc. And a Naxalist movement has got support from the Dalits. So Dalits and Naxal movement and Senas, this is what is entirely Dalit versus OBC fight. Now Dalits are also asserting the power in Tamil Nadu. Let us see what the shape it is going to take up. The next is Debroy panel. So the Vivek Debroy panel, what it has said is this. So one is a regulatory authority has to be identified to determine the prices and the charges to be applied in railways. And the second thing is the mechanism or else the liberalization in railways has to continue, and privatization is indirectly settled in this particular committee report. And it has said that railways has to confine it to its core functions and delegating or getting rid of the other associated functions such as management of the housing, management of the hospitals, etc. and etc. So railways has to conform itself to the core functions of the transport. And next, this month, the manufacturing sector shown a good result, around 4.1% of the growth. But however, the concerns still remain because the demand in the Indian economy is not improving. And though the manufacturing sector has grew up, the underutilization of the capacities, especially industrial capacities, is a major concern. And still many of the core sectors, among the core sectors, the output has just increased by 0.4%. The core sectors have to be yet revived. So these are the still concerns with regard to the growth is seen. And next is the tapes of leaked by Edward Snowden shows that NSA was conducting surveillance over the German Chancellor Merkel and Merkel's phone. But however, the Germany withdraw or dropped this hacking probe. That is one thing. And these are the things we discussed in this particular class. In this class, focus on Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act. We can expect a question over there and try to prepare an answer for that particular question. So, with regard to this regulation of the railways, so if any regulatory authority has to be appointed, under what circumstances the regulatory authority functions better, and what are the criteria, and take certain examples where governmental monopoly exists, why do we need a regulation in that circumstances? So wherever there is a competition, we need an independent regulatory authority. Then in railways we have the government monopoly. Then what the regulatory authority has to do in these circumstances? That's one question. So try to understand from these dynamics this area. Thank you very much. Again, before that, I'm sorry, I'll upload the 10th and 11th videos by tomorrow. Yeah, I got some personal emergency, so I was unable to do that. And please don't mind. Thank you very much.